morning, listeners, and welcome back to the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ron Couming of RCS Online Solutions, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs, much like you, attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers and clients to achieve even greater success using various Internet marketing techniques and methods. The purpose of this show is we basically run two different formats, and the first format is we will bring on subject matter guests, one or two per episode. It's an hour-long show, who will talk to us about their expertise, but also about issues that they overcame in the beginning of their entrepreneur and business, early business development stages, in the hopes that our listeners who may be at those stages or come across those issues will have learned by listening to them and how they navigated through them, thus lessening the sting of those trials and tribulations. And then in the rare weeks that we don't have one or two guests, I will just give away tips on how you can achieve even greater success. Our second section today, I'm going to talk about 9 ways that you can market your website. So 9 ways you can market our website. That will be roughly 11:30 to 12. But first up today, I'm very excited to talk to you about Trish Murray. Real name is Patricia Murray. DOD is DO, period, not DOD, is a highly accomplished physician who has been certified in 4 different medical specialties, including internal medicine, osteopathic manipulative services, energy medicine, and functional medicine. All of this after being a teacher for a decade in public education and completing medical school in the top 10% of her graduating class at the age of 38. Dr. Murray has designed numerous courses in osteopathic, she'll correct me on that pronunciation, manipulative medicine, and has taught hundreds of physicians in continuing education programs for more than 10 years. Her hands-on as well as Internet-based nationally accredited courses are sought after by physicians worldwide. And on a personal note, she became set on her life's path after a personal injury as an athlete at a young age that traditional medicine therapies could not help, and experiencing the anguish of losing her mom to Alzheimer's disease long before she physically died. Trish realized that she had to take responsibility for her own health. Her mission has been to seek and accumulate the knowledge necessary to heal and prevent the path of her genetics. Also, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're out going to different events. We're working late hours. There's a lot of times we don't have the structure that 9-to-5s have, and sometimes our health can take a back seat to us trying to accomplish or serve our customers and clients. So Trish is going to teach us how maybe we can have some of that balance, because when you're healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, it will also help you with your business and personal life. Trish, good morning.
Good morning, Ron, and thanks for that, reading through my intro for me. And that's a doctor of osteopathic manipulative medicine. Yeah.
Osteopathic?
Pathic. Yeah, so
Excellent.
osteo is a root for bone, and then osteopathy, of course, is the study of things. So osteopathy. There you go.
All right. You say it so easily, but I went to school in Boston, and I know they had good intentions, but in my case, sometimes Google spell check's been my best friend on more than one occasion.
Yeah, I hear you. It happens to me as well, and, fields I'm not that familiar with and how to pronounce, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm super excited because, like I just talked about, oftentimes our health as entrepreneurs and business owners, and even people who are in the 9-to-5, there's just so much pressure to produce and perform, and so our health. We'll eat quick at our desk instead of getting a decent meal, or we'll bring something, get something at the office instead of actually cooking something like on Sunday. Cook 2 or 3 days worth of healthy stuff and just bring it with you. You know what I mean? So I'm looking very forward to what you have to say, but I've known you for quite a while now, and I've actually worked with you for quite a while, and so I'm a big fan. That's why I asked you to come on and share with our guests. But can you tell our guests a little bit more than what maybe your bio didn't cover? What you do, how you serve, who you help?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, again, one of the biggest things I'd like people to realize is that the problem is that we've gone askew. 60% of baby boomers have 3 or more chronic diseases, such as arthritis, high blood pressure, diabetes, and they're all caused by underlying inflammation. And they find themselves aging the same or worse than their parents did and suffering with pain, exhaustion, decreased productivity, and brain fog. And these problems start long before we reach, our middle age. They start in our 30s and our 40s. We just don't notice them as much. And then as we get into the baby boomer age today of, 45, 50, 55, myself, I'm 56, we start to fear ending up in a nursing home or losing our savings due to the cost of our care. And with what we know from science today, this does not have to happen. And then the other part of the problem is that, like all of us today in our technical age, we're Googling it, and we're looking for answers on YouTube and so forth, and sometimes we're finding some answers, but the other thing is the information is so complex. And then we're also finding, 18-year-old tattooed millennials doing extreme exercise-like things, and we're thinking that's what we need to do, and then we end up getting hurt. And so with this all as an issue, what I did was, from my own experiences, I was an internal medicine primary care doc. And to be honest, all I was doing was determining what people had as a disease process, let's say, and then providing them with a pill. But we never were getting at, well, why? Why do you have arthritis that's progressing? Why do you have brain fog? And I've documented over 200 aging boomers that have improved their vitality, reduced their pain, cleared their brain fog, and eliminated numerous medications from their life by utilizing my programs. So, it's really not about also having to come and see someone. It's about being enlightened through an educational and tools and a roadmap of how to identify the things in your own environment, such as the food you eat, or the cosmetics you use, or the cleaners you use in the home, or the stress in your life, or the negative relationships in your life, to improve your health and decrease the inflammation so that you can age with dignity and vitality.
Wow, that's super important. And you caught my attention big time when you said 3 different, 60-something% of baby boomers have 3 different chronic illnesses.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a statistic that in my own local community, I'm in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and every 3 years, the hospital in my area has to do a needs assessment, and they look at the data and the statistics, and 60% of folks over 55 had 3 or more chronic diseases in my area, and I live in the place where people come to be active, and most of us that live there to be active. So we ski and we hike and we're in the mountains and fishing and this and that. So we are actually a lower percentage than the average of, typical city areas or things or people in the typical American baby boomer that's not exercising or getting out that much.
Wow. That's amazing. And so now when you talk about inflammation, is there a specific test that you said that people have an underlying inflammation? Is there a specific test? And we can get in a second on maybe how they can start preventing it, and if they have it, how they can reduce it or possibly eliminate it. But is there a test where people who are unsure, but they could just go and just have maybe a lab test or something?
Absolutely. When you see your traditional primary care doctor, they usually will do, certain tests every year that are the average traditional tests. And those tests might help a little in determining whether you're inflamed, or another thing it will look at is your blood sugar. If your fasting blood sugar is too high, over 100 typically, then everybody should realize that sugar and glucose is a neurotoxin and an inflammatory agent. So if your sugar is too high, and that's a really basic, inexpensive test if you haven't had it done. The other thing is there is something called a high sensitivity C-reactive protein. So that's HSCRP. If someone gets that tested, that is a generalized marker for how much inflammation is in your system. And it is not a test that they typically do every, year or two when you go for your physical. But it's not, again, a esoteric, expensive test. I mean, all lab tests have a cost, of course, but it's a basic test, and it can tell you if you're overly inflamed, yes.
All right, can you give me those initials again?
Sure. It's HSCRP. So it's what stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein.
Okay, and I hope the listeners take advantage of that. I know for me, I just had all my stuff done, and thankfully, and especially when you talk about numbers, I'm 57, all my stuff is perfect. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have anything, so I'm grateful. But somebody who may have crossed over into some of these issues where they're actually affecting their lives. Can we talk a little bit about maybe, one, how it will affect their lives? And so maybe if they haven't had a test, they'll see some of the signs, and then some things they could do to reduce it. Obviously, I guess, simple things we could say, exercise more, eat better, but, maybe coming from an actual doctor and listening. And, at the end of the day, this will help everybody. If you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur, I mean, if you have brain fog or you're not producing at optimal levels, it affects your ability to serve those you're seeking to serve. So this is, when we talk about internet marketing and business solutions, this is, a business solution. Provide, better, clearer results in products by you having, more mental clarity and physical health and stuff. So sleeping right, eating right, exercising right, you're going to serve more, you're going to produce better products, and at the end of the day, more people are going to hire you. So, Trish, why don't you take over for a little bit here and just tell us how people can maybe start to avoid them, and anything you have, maybe a free PDF or something, please let us know your how they can opt in for that.
Absolutely. So first of all, I've given talks to business owners many times, and the idea that if they're not doing well, as you mentioned, and they have brain fog, or they're exhausted, or they're not sleeping well, and they're not regenerating themselves on a regular basis, and their stress is running out of control, then they realize they're not as productive. And then if all of their staff and employees are feeling the same way, then, of course, they're not as productive. And it affects your bottom line, and it affects how well you're able to serve your clients. So some of the signs that this stuff is an issue for you would be, number one, is brain fog. The other thing is mood changes, anxiety, depression, and, again, the brain fog, feeling exhausted. Many people who, you go to bed and maybe you fall asleep okay, but then, bing, at 2, 3 in the morning, you're wide awake and you can't seem to get back to sleep. That's a sign that things are not right, and your cortisol level, your stress hormone, is too high. If you're having pain, more joint pain than you're used to, or myalgias such as muscle aches and pains, that's a sign that you're overinflamed. So many of these things are just signs, and they don't have to be horrible disease processes like that you're prescribed the medicine for. They could be the everyday signs. So what are things you could do? First of all, I think the biggest message I have for folks is you can take control of your health by realizing that we are all reacting and effect of our environment. Now, we all have certain things in our environment we can't overly control as an individual, such as the level of pollution and exhaust that comes from cars, or noise pollution, or things like that. But there are many, many, many things that in our own individual day-to-day lives we can modify, or we can take little controls over, such as, again, our food, and eating rather than the typical standard American diet, and you notice that spells out an acronym that says SAD. One of the number one things I recommend in my book, Make a Dent in Chronic Disease, is to eat color. Every color of the rainbow: red, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, and I do not mean Skittles or M&M. I mean, real whole food, colored food. The other thing is most Americans eat, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 servings of processed carbohydrates every day. Grains, crackers, bread, pasta, rice, and all of that gets converted to what? Sugar, glucose. And I mentioned earlier that glucose and sugar is the feeding thing of the fire of inflammation. So if you were to decrease to eat color and decrease all your grains to 1 or 2 servings a day rather than 7 or 8 or 9, you're going to shift your health. And you're going to decrease your anxiety, decrease your stress, improve your brain fog, sleep better, and decrease your cortisol. And again, exercise is an amazing piece. If you just get out and do something and you move every day for at least 15, 20 minutes, and that's not a lot, you'd be amazed at how much better you would feel. And again, I have a book that's called Make a Dent in Chronic Disease, and DENT is an acronym that stands for detox, exercise, nutrition, and transformation. And the transformation is, of course, your stress as well as your health. And in there, that's an introductory book about how to change your environment. Now, if someone, and you can get my book off Amazon.com, of course, but you also, on my website, which is discoverhealthfmc.com, because I am the founder and CEO of Discover Health Functional Medicine Center, and that's the website. First of all, right off the website, there are 3 different, right on the homepage, free introductory educational programs. One is entitled The 7 Warning Signs You Might Have Leaky Gut. And the reason that people have heard maybe of leaky gut, but the bottom line is most disease process and inflammation starts in our guts because our gut is not functioning properly. So that one on 7 warning signs you may have leaky gut is a good idea. The other one is 10 ways in 10 days to stop your suffering and live a pain-free life, where each day over a 10-day period, you're just going to get these short little videos by me giving you a tip every day. And then the third one is foods to eat and avoid for autoimmune disease. And also on my website, if you're interested, you've read the book or you've watched one of these programs and you're interested in learning more, you can actually sign up for a 30-minute free consult with myself or one of my team to find out how else that you can learn about our services that you do not have to live right in our area to be a part of. We have online, programs that you can do remotely through telemedicine, but also educational programs.
That's huge. And I just want to let the listeners know this episode, as all episodes, is archived. So if you were unable to write that information down, you will be able to, in a couple of days, go to the radio station, WCAP 980's website, and up on the right-hand side in the corner, it will say archive. This episode and all the other episodes for the last 3 years will be available for you to listen to again. It will also be on my website, rcsonlinesolutions.com, and again, it'll be probably up Wednesday or Thursday. So, don't fret if you were unable to write down that information. We'll be able to go back and listen to it. Go ahead. I love this, man. This, to me, is so vitally, fundamentally important. I mean, it goes back to having a solid foundation on which to build a house from. So, please, tell us more.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, and that's the key, is that people, if you realize you just take, and it's a journey, it's not a destination, Ron. It's one step at a time. And that's why, I met you out there at a conference, and I knew I needed help with, the things that you are an expert in, the SEO, the search engine optimization, so I can get my message out there more. The other avenues that people can learn more is I also have a podcast. It's presently at trishmurray.podbean.com. But if you also go to my website, and on the home page, right across the top menu, there's a health library. Everything in my health library is free, and the very first item in the drop-down menu is my podcast. So if you don't remember trishmurray.podbean.com, you can go right to my website, discoverhealthfmc.com, go to the health library, and right to the first one, listen to all sorts of interviews and topics I do on health and wellness and how to take control of your health. And then the other thing is I do a monthly webinar. And we send out emails, obviously, that are leading up to each and every webinar. I just did one last week where I interviewed a friend on resonant energy fields and how everything is connected, Because, again, we got to realize that everything in our health and in our life is affecting us. And then next month, this coming month in May, I'll be doing a webinar on how to avoid or how to heal from irritable bowel syndrome. IBS is something, again, back to the gut. The gut is many times where our problems start. So if you have IBS or you're wondering about leaky gut and IBS, then obviously my webinar will be coming up this month. I think it's the third Thursday evening at 6 o'clock.
Wow. And is there any, what type of, just in case somebody doesn't understand leaky gut or I think
Absolutely.
it's IB, could you tell us a little bit about maybe what the symptoms are, how it affects you,
Sure.
and then how correcting it will benefit you?
Of course. First of all, leaky gut is the idea that our gut, our lining of our intestines, is only one cell layer thick, and that's it. So one cell sits next to another cell, sits next to another cell. But they're supposed to have very tight junctions next to each other, meaning their elbows are supposed to be locked together really, really, really tight. But the problem is that our environment and the things we eat and the Advil and the Motrin and the stress and all these different things in our environment cause those cells to start to let go and have gaps between them. And so when we eat, certain things that are not supposed to get through the wall, of your fort, and they get inside of you rather than just staying inside the hose of your intestines. And they, right behind the wall of your intestines, which is the wall of your fort, sits your military, your immune system. And when things get through that are not supposed to, that's the bottom line, the gut is leaky, and then your soldiers, your immune system, your Army, your Navy, your Air Force, your Marines goes into action to protect you. And then what happens is inflammation gets kicked up. And then if that inflammation is happening every single day, then of course you're chronically inflamed, and that leads down the path of, degenerative processes and disease processes. The other thing is irritable bowel syndrome. It's many times caused by this leaky process I've described, but also it's people that you go to the restroom, and you're trying to move your bowels, and you either have diarrhea or you have constipation or you wax and wane between the two, and you never leave the toilet feeling like you've emptied yourself properly of all the waste products that we have. And so that's irritable bowel syndrome. It's probably one of the most common conditions that people suffer with and are diagnosed with, but the traditional medical model has essentially not very much other than a pill that gives you other symptoms. And so there are avenues to take around diet and these other avenues I've been discussing.
Nice. Excellent. So to me, that's huge, and I'm a big fan. I've been focusing on my health for several years now myself, and I see a huge difference. I do a lot of traveling, and sometimes when I travel, I can't adhere to the best eating plan that I usually stick to, or one that works for me, or I'm not sleeping right. I'm at the event, 8 hours, 9 hours, so you're not eating right. Then you're tired, you're not exercising right because you don't have the gym, or whatever the case may be. And I've been doing a lot of traveling, so when that happens, I can feel a big difference. When that happens, over a 3 or 6 week period, everything is like cut in half or changed. So I can only imagine if somebody doesn't have any type of, even just small changes, nothing. Not like tomorrow, if they start listening to you or following your stuff or even availing themselves of your free offers, that all of a sudden now they have to change every single eating habit they have. They have to work out for an hour a day, 6-7 days a week, or, that's not the case. Am I right? Even if it's just small changes consistently implemented over time, and then when you fully digest those and come to terms with those, and it just becomes a habit and part of your life, then you can add another one or one after that. Am I correct that people shouldn't look at this as all of a sudden their entire world has to change for it to be effective?
Absolutely, and that's so important for people to understand. As I said, this is not a destination. It's not you need to change everything by tomorrow or the world's going to blow up for you. It's one step at a time, one little change at a time. If you said to yourself, all right, I'm just going to focus on, decreasing my grains that I eat, as Dr. Trish said, I'm going to count that I eat 5, 6, 7 servings of grain a day, whether that be, again, crackers, cookies, muffins, and so forth. Oh, my goodness, I realized, wow, I am eating a lot too much of that. All right, what could I substitute? Well, you could substitute a handful of nuts rather than a muffin. You could substitute, there's so much coconut product out there. Why? Because that's a good, healthy fat rather than a sugar. So these are just little baby steps that someone could take. All right, exercise. I'm going to get on the ground, stretch for 5 minutes a day. And I have on my website in the Health Library really basic level 1 stretches that anyone can do because that's my specialty, which is people's pain. So, again, like you're saying, Ron, this doesn't mean you change everything overnight. You change one little thing, and then a week or 2, 3 weeks, a month later, you're like, wow, I'm actually feeling better. What else could I be doing? And then you look in the mirror and you say, what else am I going to change? And then you change something else. And 3 months, 6 months, a year later, you're like, wow, I am doing so much better than I was before. And that's the point of my programs. They're cost-effective, they're affordable, and they're doable so that people can take control of their health.
I love it. And again, having good health, I mean, look at all the money that Steve Jobs has, right? He had $9 billion. Do you think he wouldn't give up all that money to be healthy again? I mean, he had a liver issue, but you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you can have all the accolades you want and all the awards you want, but if you don't have your health, what do you have? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And actually, he has a video on YouTube before he passed when he was in, I believe, maybe even the intensive care unit. And he was hooked up to all sorts of things. And you can hear him talk about it. And the fact that, if I realized 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would have done it very, very differently. And that's the point about some of the things I'm talking about chronic disease is they start now when you're in your 30s or 40s, and then they get worse as you get older. So we really need to change things no matter what age you are.
Yep, and it can be simple things like when you're making phone calls, stand up instead of sit down. Pace if you have space in your office, just pace, walk back and forth while you're on the phone. Or if you're listening, to a motivational tape or something, you don't necessarily have to be lying down or sitting on the couch. You can listen to it and just walk in your living room back and forth. I mean, these are just small things, but just after a while, you'll just add to them. So I'm a big fan. We got like a minute or two left. I'd love you to give out your contact info and then maybe one last thought again, if you have one.
Sure. So again, the website is Discover Health, FMC for Functional Medicine Center. That's FMC.com. My book is Make a Dent in Chronic Disease, and that's available on Amazon. And as on the line of what you just said, Ron, I mean, I was at one time in my life healing from my injuries. I'm sort of type A. I became a competitive bodybuilder. But the bottom line is you can have a big dumbbell in your hand or you could have nothing in your hand. And to just bring your hand towards your shoulder without doing any effort is one thing. But what about if you contract the muscles and you lift that hand as if there was a dumbbell in it? That's all you got to do. So it's amazing how effective just very simple things could be.
I love it. And the important thing is just get started. Don't get so caught up on what you can't do. Just focus on what you can't do, and what you can do will increase with time.
Absolutely. Way to go.
I love it. Everyone, you've been listening to Trish Murray on the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ron Couming of RCS RCS Online Solutions. I changed my name in November, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs just like you achieve even greater success by attracting, converting, and retaining their ideal customers and clients. Second half coming up after these commercials is a digital marketing tips that I'm going to give you 9 ways to market your website. Look, come back.